We're recording. Today's date is June 29th, 2020. What is your full name?
Ronald Francis Hutson, Jr.
All right. And when were you born? Full birthday.
October 5th, 1950.
And where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was actually born in Muskegon, but only there 2 years, and then my dad got transferred over to Lake Erie Whiting Campbell plant, or not Campbell, Whiting plant, electrical plant. And then when I was 12, we moved back over here to Holland because he got promoted and went into this coal handling plant over here, Campbell plant.
So have you been in Holland since you were 12?
Yeah, I graduated high school here, and we come back to live. I lived a year with my folks before I got married, after I got back, so.
Okay. And what year did you graduate high school?
1968.
Oh, what a year to graduate high school.
Yeah.
So, what knowledge did you have about Vietnam and communism before you joined the military?
What had I heard?
Yeah, what did you know? Did you hear anything in high school or anything like that?
Oh, there was talk about it, how that goes around schools like that, But we never discussed it all that much. I mean, we could never foresee ourselves being in a war at that time, But a lot of us did.
What were your thoughts on the Cold War at the time? And when you were in high school, was there talk about just what communism was, what it did, anything like that?
Well, yeah, there was a lot about the Cold War, and it's just more of a battle of I can't say wits. It's about staring somebody down who blinks first, that kind of thing,
Okay.
But I wasn't too concerned with it. I mean, it didn't affect my life at all.
Did it feel like it was so far away almost that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you think of a Cold War, it must be off in Russia somewhere where they always got snow,
So you graduated high school in 1968. Were you 17 or 18 when you graduated high school?
I was 17.
17. So tell me about how you get into the military after high school.
Well, a friend of mine, should I mention his name?
Yeah, you can.
His name's Dave Locker. He lives out in Idaho now, and we still Facebook back and forth, that kind of thing. He wanted to go into the Marine Corps on the buddy plan, because back then you could go in with a friend and they would keep you together through basic training, ITR, Vietnam, you could stick right with them. And I got down there and signed up. He did too, but somehow something happened. He never has explained it real well, but he didn't show up. And so he did join the Navy though after that, and he was in the Navy quite a long time. But so I just wound up going by myself. It's, not a big deal.
So do you remember what month you joined the Marines?
I went in August 28th. Is the day I went down to San Diego.
In 68 or 69?
68.
68.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just graduated. It's June and August.
Okay. So did you ever have any, I don't want to say fear, but were you concerned about being drafted, or would you have went in the military regardless of if there had been
Well, I knew my number was 135, which was a low number, and so I figured I'd get drafted. But him and I were going to go in on the buddy plan, so I joined, and just it worked out because they were doing one of those things. Well, you're 2 years, you're 4 years, you're 6 years, whatever, and I happened to land on 2 years. So look back, it's lucky. I was disappointed at the time because I'd signed up for 4, but disappointed, stupid, I'm glad I got 2. So.
Well, tell me about your time in the military before you went to Vietnam. So you went to basic training in San Diego.
Right, and then I went to ITR, infantry training, after that, and then they put me on mess duty after that was over. I don't know why, but they figured I looked like a good dishwasher, I guess. So, then they gave me 30-day leave before I went to Vietnam. Come back to California and staging, they call it. I was getting everything ready to ship on over there. So flew over on the commercial flight, landed in Hawaii for fuel, and I think I spent a whole half hour in Hawaii. Great place. But anyway, yeah, then we landed in Da Nang, and they started giving us our, rifle and bags and, clothes and all kinds of stuff, They give you to prepare, and then that's when they told me I was going to be going up to the rock pile up in the DMZ, just 3 miles south of the DMZ, which was 3 miles wide. So we were 6 miles from North Vietnam, actually.
Do you remember what date you arrived in Vietnam? Or month, even?
Let's see. April, I believe it was April 10 of 69.
Okay. So what was we're going to come back to the rock pile in a minute, but what was your very first impression of Vietnam as soon as you get
hot, yeah, it was hot. Stepped off that air conditioned plane, I thought I was gonna fall down. It was so hot. Like I said, that was in April, So yeah. Anyway, they I don't know.
So you land in Vietnam in April 1969 in Da Nang.
Yep.
And then you get sent to the rock pile. How did you feel about going that close to the DMZ?
Well, I didn't know nothing about it, I didn't know how hot it was going to be or how cold it was. It turned out to be pretty cold, really, because they told us once I got there and started learning a little bit, they said that we don't get hit too often here because we're like the first outpost from the line. He said because when they're going south, they're carrying all their ordnance to wreak havoc down there, like Da Nang and Hue and Phu Bai, all them places, and so they weren't really particularly interested in blowing us up too much because they had to use their ammo down there. And on the way back, usually didn't have any ammo left or very little, and then they'd toss in a like a mortar round or something like that once in a while, but that would only last like 2 minutes, So. And we had foxholes to jump into too. So.
Perfect. So you didn't feel super exposed at the rock pile, or?
No, I didn't really. No, I mean, looking back at it, of course, at the time you're thinking I could get shot any minute, but they're just not out there like that. It's not that way.
What was your first contact with Vietnamese civilians?
I didn't have much contact with them. I used to drive through their villages, and some of the guys would toss candy to the kids that are standing alongside the road. But I don't think they particularly liked us being there. I mean, who would? You want the Army in your neighborhood? No. So, yeah, we didn't have too much contact with them at all.
Okay. So while you're in...
I didn't anyway. Some people did, I'm sure.
Yeah. While you're in Vietnam in April 1969, what was your rank and what was your job?
When I was in Vietnam? Mm-hmm. Well, I started out as a private, of course. Got PFC shortly after I got there, and then while I was still there, I got a Lance Corporal, and that's what I got out with, Lance Corporal.
And then what was your main job?
Driving truck.
All right. So what were you driving? Tell me about your job.
It was a 5-ton diesel truck with the box, or not a box, but kind of like a dump box, but this one didn't dump. And it just had you had runners over that you could put canvas over, cover it. Most time I didn't need it. Most thing I was hauling, you could put right out in the open. It never rained except for monsoon season, and I was there for that too that year. Yeah, I would go out and haul stuff from ammo dumps back to because what I was in a M105 battery, which is artillery. I belonged to them, but I was their driver. So I also had to learn how to fire those guns, which I did quite a few times. And we, like I said, I'd go back to Dong Ha or someplace like that and pick up beer that come in on ships, food, clothing, anything that we needed there at that rock pile camp, you know. And so everything they needed, I hauled it, you know.
Were there any other truck drivers, or were you the main guy that did most of
No,
the
there was, let's see, there was 3 others of us. There's 4 of us were there. So,
And what would be a typical day for you? Like, what time would you get up? What time would you start driving? What time would you be done? What would be a typical day for you?
I don't remember any specific times getting up, going to bed. Just, I don't know. Got up and went down to the mess hall, had breakfast, and went to work, whatever they had you doing that day. Sometimes you didn't even drive that day in a day. You'd bust down flat tires, bust them up. Because they were the kind that had the ring around them. You had to pry the ring off. So we'd work on that a lot and get tires fixed up. Because you got a lot of flat tires over there.
Do you say that most days you would be driving?
Yeah, probably half. I think half, more like it.
And then the other half you were doing other support duties, kind of around the base and everything?
Firing the guns, cleaning the truck, you know. Whatever they could find for you to do, that's the way the Marine Corps is, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have nothing to do, I got something for you.
Never say you're bored, right?
That's right.
Okay, so you're driving most of the time. Do you remember any major operations that your unit would have participated in during the year that you were in Vietnam?
You know, there probably was, but like I said, I was only just kind of the hanging off part of the artillery battery. So I'm sure they probably had names for different, when they fired the guns and where they were firing at. They probably had different names for it. You know, all the Marine Corps Army, they got names for everything, you know. So but as far as like missions, we didn't go on missions. These tanks were really built to be in a berm, you know, sand around, dirt around them, you know, and stay stationary. Of course, they could roll and you could drive them places, but in that compound, it stayed right where they were.
Okay. So in the year, were you in Vietnam for the entire year, from April to April?
No. Let's see, April to November, I think November 8th, they had told us just a month before that, they told us that we were going to get pulled out as part of the 3rd Marine Division. And my mother had wrote me before they even told us that when I said, well, your dad and I just watched on TV the last of the 3rd Marine Division pulling out. I had no idea where we were going to go. You know, and I was on outpost when I was reading this, guarding, you know, on guard duty. And I wrote to her, I said, yeah, well, they lied, Ma, because I'm still here. And then later I found out, and I wrote her, yeah, you were right, though. They're pulling us out of here. So I was only there 8 months.
Okay, so was that part of the general pullout that started to happen under Nixon in 69, 70?
Yeah, so that's when they were starting to pull out troops, yeah. So I felt lucky at the time. Good. I don't want to be here no more.
Can't blame you. So in those 8 months that you're in country, so you pretty much stayed in that area near the DMZ the whole time? Yeah,
well, like I said, Dong Ha was what they called our rear.
Okay.
And the Khe Sanh, the town Khe Sanh, we had a landing base there, an LZ there. And and they had ammo dumps and all sorts of stuff. So mainly I just went to Khe Sanh and Dong Ha.
Okay. So in that general...
That upper, yeah, like if I'm facing you, this would be Dong Ha, this would be Khe Sanh, kind of like this, and then the rock pile up here, so.
What, when you were there, did you hear about Khe Sanh from 68? Was there any... Because Khe Sanh in 1968 had a very major siege.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So was there were there
fact-
still a lot of men based there afterwards? What was that?
Oh yeah, they still were there. Yeah, and probably more than they had.
Yeah.
But yeah, just before I got there, they had got overrun, basically, and I heard I just missed the bagging up body parts.
Another lucky thing for you. Yeah.
Didn't need to do that.
Yeah. So while you're in Vietnam in 1969, we're going back to the home front in the United States. There's a pretty active anti-war movement going on. Did you hear anything about that while you're in country, and what were your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I heard about that, but I just figure, I've always figured, fools are going to be fools. Ain't nothing I can do about it. But I didn't get off at a commercial airport like my brother-in-law and a few others I've talked to got off a commercial airport. They were throwing stuff at them and just talking bad to them. I got off in Norton Air Force Base down there on the coast of California, and they took us in the building, and this was at night. They debriefed us, and after that, they said, you can wear your military uniform on flight home. I wouldn't recommend it, but so I didn't. Why stir up more trouble? I just come from trouble. Didn't need any more.
So where you were stationed in Vietnam, did you ever interact with South Vietnamese soldiers from the South Vietnamese Army?
No, the only ones I seen were dead ones. That's the only South Vietnamese.
Because you were so far north and...
Well, they were everywhere. As you know, there's no front or rear.
Right.
We called it, like I said, the rock pile is the front and the Dong Hao is the rear. But it was just because we had offices there, and they communicated with our captain that lived with us at the rock pile.
So even though you didn't really interact with any of the South Vietnamese soldiers, did you have any impression of them, or what was the general kind of consensus about how you worked together with them?
Well, I heard a story, which I think most everybody's heard, that, back in Dong Ha, of course, I was, I think it was 18 miles from Dong Ha at the rock pile. And they were saying that there was a South Vietnamese guy that come in and would do haircuts and stuff like that in the evening or at night or whatever. And, but they had found out he was carrying satchels and explosives and planning on blowing up. Because, he got in there and took a look around, and they caught him at it. And so I don't know what happened to him, but probably nothing very good.
So do you think he was like a VC infiltrator then?
I think so. Yeah, he was working for North Vietnam. They were all through those villages and stuff like that. It'd be just like it is here if we were fighting a war,
Did you ever feel unsure of if a civilian was a civilian or VC? Was there any tension or anxiety about that?
Well, the only anxiety I had was just didn't want to be shot by one. That was the only anxiety I had, really. Otherwise it was beer at night, breakfast in the morning,
What was a fond memory you have of Vietnam?
Boy, you got me searching hard for that one. I don't really remember fond memories.
Yes.
I didn't mind it so bad, it was something I could stand, I could take. I wasn't in a bad situation as far as being a grunt or a radio operator or something that had to go out in the jungle, I went on mine sweeps. That was another duty I had, it's not really my favorite thing, but we had a buffalo break away from the kid that was handling it, and he was charging our landmine line. There was a whole platoon of us, and he was coming steaming right towards the line, and we all started shooting at him. I was wondering when everybody was going to start shooting, because I was going to start pretty quick. And so we did kill him, but we counted 58 bullet holes in him. It took a lot because I mean, you're shooting rounds that are basically made to kill humans. These buffalo are tough. You know, 58 holes, and some of them got to his engine. You know.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah, it was kind of hairy there for a minute.
Yeah. So you start to leave Vietnam in November of 1969. And where did you go through to leave country?
We had to clean up our equipment, like you could be able to eat off of the undercarriage of a truck. You know, that's how they wanted it. You know, we cleaned them up, and then they put us on a LSD flat bottom ship where we drove our trucks down into the bottom of it. Tanks, I mean the M105s, you know, right down the bottom of it. And we set sail for Okinawa. And 9 days later, and one vicious sea storm where everybody got sick, except the sailors, of course. We got there 9 days later, unloaded. There's a camp there in Kim Village, they call it, just down the road from where we got off the ship. And we went there, and then they started putting us on various duties, you know, cleaning the yard, mess duty, guard duty. They always had something for you to do. But at night, you got to go off the base into Kim Village, and then there was whooping it up.
How long were you in Okinawa at this time, you think?
Well, I was there twice, actually, because I'd have to kind of figure it out, because I was there 8 months, 9, 10. Probably 2 months after we got there, we got the word that we're going to Mount Fuji in Japan for cold weather training. Come out of the tropics, and 2 weeks later, you're in Alaska, you know. Everybody got sick. Everybody colds, coughs, flus, you know, everybody, even the captain. So that was kind of a stupid thing. But hey, the Army and Marines are kind of stupid. You know? What can I say? That's why I didn't stay in. But yeah, we was there for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and at that time I got to drive my truck on the wrong side of the road from where our camp was at the bottom of the mountain to Yokohama, which I thought was pretty cool. I got a kick out of that, you know, but it was different. I mean, you had to drive on the opposite side of the road. So the left lane was your right lane, you know. Stay out of the fast lane.
What was that like, just that drive? Was it amazing to see?
Well, we went with several trucks, so we were in convoy.
Okay.
So, you know, nobody messed with us.
Okay.
I mean, it's Japan, you know.
Yeah. So when do you finally leave Japan?
Well, we went back to Okinawa for a time, and when my year was up, that's when I left Okinawa, and they flew us to Jacksonville, North Carolina, Camp Lejeune.
Oh.
Okay, Camp Lejeune. And there I had 3 months left to go. And they were letting guys out early, left and right. I said, pick me. You know, I'll go early. Well, I'm glad I didn't, because I found out later, you have to have exactly 2 years to the day or more to get benefits, you know. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of health problems and stuff from that, and so I get benefits, and now that's what I live on with my retirement, you know.
Good, that worked out for you.
Yeah, Lord's watching over me all the time.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask your opinion and thoughts on the use of Agent Orange in Vietnam and how it's impacted veterans. Is that something that were you ever exposed? I mean, you were near the DMZ, so there probably wasn't Agent Orange used in that area.
Not that I know of. I wasn't. I mean, I didn't always know what I was hauling, right. So I could have been hauling. I don't know. Yeah. But I look at it this way. Yeah, it's a good thing in a way, because you get rid of the foliage and you could see the enemy and shoot them. But it's bad. A bad way, because it hurts our health. Mm-hmm. Of course, if they knew it or not, I don't know. But they're not going to tell you, you know. Anyway, they still don't admit to it now, you know. So, what are you going to do? That's all part of the war, I guess. And
okay, so you get back into the country in North Carolina in April 1970, and you have 3 months left. So
April, May, June, July, August.
So you leave the service
4 months, 3 months.
in August.
I got out the same day I got in, August 28th, 1970, 2 years later.
And then what did you do after that?
After I got out? Oh, well, I come home and my father-in-law got me a job at Chris Craft. And I worked there for 3 months till they laid me off. And I got a job driving a dump truck for with a guy that owned his own blacktopping business out in Beaver Dam. And worked for him 2 summers. That was one heck of a hard job. I mean, that, you know, you're doing this on a hot day already, 90-degree day, and it's coming, that blacktop comes out of those chutes at 290 degrees. So you're back there shoveling over it, you know. That was tougher than anything I did in Vietnam. That was hard. My wife and I were on a bowling league at the time. There was a few nights I come home, you know, when I was our bowling night, I said, I just got no more poop left. And I'm 20 years old, 21 years old. You know, I just didn't have no more steam left. I'm dead.
Did you meet your wife after you returned, or did you know her before?
I knew her from our high school days. She was Holland Christian Reform, I was Holland Public, but lived in the same neighborhood, so I got to meet her through that.
So did you marry her when you got back then?
Yeah, it's 71, okay. September 17th, 71.
So when you did return home, you said you didn't fly on a commercial flight, but after you got home and you got settled, did you ever find any people giving you any problems for your service in Vietnam?
Well, like I say, I just flew back here, and most people around this real conservative area, it was, and they just really didn't want to talk about it. I think they were ashamed at how people were treating us. They weren't treating us that way, but they were ashamed that other people were, you know. And I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anybody that I was even in the Marine Corps. So I went to that church out there where we go now, and dude, I still got people sometimes saying, I didn't know you were in the Marine Corps. Yeah, well, don't talk about it too much.
Well, first let me ask you, what, in those years you get home from Vietnam, maybe that first decade or so, how do you feel that your service in Vietnam impacted your life after you got out of the service and resumed your civilian life?
Well, I thought it made me mentally tougher than what I was, because they trained me and made me mentally tough. And I've carried that. That's one thing the Marine Corps gave me that I've carried the rest of my life, is mental toughness.
That'll help you in that dump truck job.
What's that?
That'll help you in that dump truck job.
Well, yeah, yeah. But I went to Belmar Foods. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not. It's Tyson Foods now. I worked there for 23 years, driving Chicago. At one time, I was doing Chicago 3 times a week for 10 years. So I got to know Chicago pretty well. I got friends that live there now because of that. And then they burned down, but they kept going. They got some over-the-road trucks. I started hauling live turkeys to our other plant in Storm Lake, Iowa, and our other plant in Garrettsville, Ohio. So, that was the start of my over-the-road career, because when I left there, I went to a company, Heidema Brothers, and they were regional, 5 states. Okay. And after that, I went to ALTL, and they're pretty much reasonable. They do go to Florida, sometimes New York, but they're pretty local too, or regional, I should say. And then I went to Van Eerden and drove there for 5 years, and that was completely over the road. That was Canada, everywhere in the States, in the lower 48.
So you've been all over the place.
Oh yeah, I've been to all of them, all the states. I can remember different things about it.
Yeah, I like that.
And then after that job, I bought my own 1-ton pickup truck, and decided I was going to haul travel trailers and park models all over the country for manufacturers that were in Indiana, and got those trailers from the manufacturers, took them all over the country and Canada too. And that was the most fun truck driving job I had. I was on my own. I owned my own truck. Just didn't make any money at all, but I was happy.
That's more important sometimes.
I think so too.
Yeah. So when you get back in the 70s, when did you notice the country start to talk about Vietnam again? So, after the war's over, it pretty much was, no one really talked about it.
I think it was around 10 years
Yeah.
before I really started realizing that there was a little talk about it. And then, pretty quick, everybody's saying, well, thanks for your service, First time a guy said that to me, I said, what? It was at a toll booth, giving the guy a toll. And I must have had something hat on. Thanks for your service. I said, what are you talking about? Your military service. Oh, yeah, okay, you're welcome, I guess. It's kind of awkward when people say that to you.
I was going to ask you.
You want to say, well, thanks for saying that,
right.
But, you're welcome too is all right, I guess.
I was going to ask you that, how you feel. So I'm a civilian, so, I don't know the perspective of what that is. Do you still get people telling you that today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, in fact, it's to the point now where you kind of quit saying it. That's okay. I know you appreciate it. But it had to slide that far one way and then back the other way again. That's just the way it, gonna work.
Did you, by any chance, follow the fall of Saigon in 1965? Or 75, I'm sorry. Is that something you paid attention to?
Well, just, the news stuff, but I didn't pay too much attention to it because I knew how they lied. They lied about me pulling out of Vietnam, so, I knew then they weren't trustworthy.
Did you have any just general thoughts about the fall of Saigon? Was there any sense of sadness?
Well, yeah, in a way, because we could have won that war if they just let go of the reins and let us just kick their ass. We could have done it, but they didn't, and so it's like we're losers. But it ain't our fault. We won every battle, so.
Absolutely. What do you think is the ultimate legacy of the Vietnam War on America 50 years after the war? How has it impacted us, or what lessons should the country have taken away from this war?
Well, yeah, right after that they started getting in these wars that lasted for 20-some years, so that was a big mistake. I mean, these political people, I don't know how many, governors or senators or that you've met, but I got to tell you, pretty much all of them are stupid. You talk to them, you go, how did you get elected? You don't have any common sense. And that's why we're getting into the shape we're in now, because nobody has common sense, can't think for themselves. They want the government to do them for them. I know I sound like a broken record.
Totally fine. Do you feel that there's any parallels between our involvement in Vietnam and our current involvement in these wars in the Middle East? I know it's not Cold War related, but do you see anything similar?
Yeah, because, United States, America has always prided themselves on freedom. Freedom, let people do what they want to do, trust people to do what's right. And they basically have done that in this country up until lately with the, riots and stuff. But, so, when Russia or whoever would back a country like Iran, Iraq, well, then we're going, hey, you can't back them. You're just going to run over everyday normal people. That's all you're going to kill, and a few soldiers back and forth. But so we go, hey, we'll help. We got lots of money. And that's why we get into them, and then we don't know how to get out of them because they go right back to the same way they were before we got into them. So why start?
When I talk to students about Vietnam, one of the things I really want them to take away from, and tell me if you agree or disagree, and it's fine if you disagree, is I think one of the ultimate lessons that we didn't learn from Vietnam is how easy it is to get involved in a foreign war. but how hard it is
to get out.
Because I think we see that today in the Middle East and Afghanistan. We're struggling to end these wars and there's no, after World War II, wars don't have a definitive end anymore, like a major battle. You take the capital, you win the war.
Yeah, right. And it was winner take all. If you had stuff, it was going to be our stuff now. You know, but it ain't that way no more. It's what it needs to be, because then these countries go, oh man, we can't have that, so we're gonna start.
And when you look at North Vietnam, another thing I always want students to understand is the North Vietnamese, the Vietnamese people in general had been, conquered by foreign countries for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And they understood the strategy of attrition, and they knew that the American public would get tired.
Yeah, they said that. Yeah.
And they watched the anti-war movement, and they just knew if we wait, a lot of us will die, but we will win the war because the Americans.
They did. Yeah. But now they're under. Well, I can't say they're under communism because there's a lot of tourism going on there.
It's technically,
that could easily be going into communist pockets.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They are still technically a communist country, but not in the sense that we would think of, say, a China.
Right.
They are very open to tourism. They do like Americans to come and spend money there.
And money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If you wanted a high school student to know anything about Vietnam, what do you think would be important for students to understand about this war? Why is it still important today to teach this war?
To me, it was important because I was fighting for freedom and independence, and that's what basically the South Vietnamese people wanted, just like South Korea wanted. They wanted to be free. They didn't want to live under tyrants, and that's what they're trying to do here now. They're trying to get us to live under a tyrant government. I know you don't like to hear it. You probably don't believe it. Most people don't. But like I said, I've been to that war. The same kind of thing. Communism, takeover, put people under your thumb, not feeding them, not giving them any freedom. Well, pretty quick, people are going to rise up from that. They just can't stand it forever. And especially this mindset in this country has always been freedom. That's what we were founded on. And we're not going to just sit by it. You got all these statues being torn down. I don't care what they do. Pretty quick, people, normal, everyday people are going to get tired of their crap. They're rioting, they're killing. They're going to get tired of it, and you're going to see a war. And that's what's going to have to be in order for us to stay free. Because if we lose that war, we're going to be like North Korea, North Vietnam. That's what we're going to be like here. And you don't want to live like that.
Have you ever went back to Vietnam after your service?
No.
Would you, or would you?
I don't know. I might, I guess, if I had all expenses paid. I'm not, itching to.
Okay.
Just, it would be kind of fun to see the rock pile. I've seen pictures of it now, and it's all overgrown, and there's caves that I didn't know they were there, and so it might be a little.
Have you ever been to D.C. to see the Vietnam Veteran Memorial?
Yes.
What's the thought when you're there? How do you feel when you're
there?
there?
I was pretty choked up. Huh?
Me too.
I cried a lot.
Yeah. I didn't even fight in the war, and I always get choked up when I'm there.
I still just thinking about it. I start.
Oh, that's okay.
Tearing up.
Yeah.
a lot of good men.
Have you
Boys.
I know. Well, when I did my research in Vietnam and Korea, the average age, of Vietnam veterans is 19. They were young, as a young group.
Yeah. And part of the problem, I think, was, see, they didn't, like World War II and that, they didn't ship everybody over there together. You went in the basic training, you trained together, you ate together, then you went to war together, and then you got to come back together, the rest of you that were alive. Vietnam wasn't like that. I was sent over there on a plane load of guys that I never seen again, served with a bunch of guys that I never seen again, So there's no, cohesiveness there,
And that's definitely important in combat because
It
you
is.
need that person to
It
support
is.
you.
It is.
Yeah.
Some guys have a Vietnam reunion. I mean, I go to the one in Kokomo, the big one. I go to that, but I don't have any regular 3rd Marine Division type. Well, what do you call it? Reunion. Mm-hmm. You know, there was some talk. Some guys were trying to start a reunion with our boot camp guys, but I never seen them again either. Never fought with them. You know, they're strangers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I appreciate their service too, but it really don't mean much.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say about your time in Vietnam, or what it means to you, or anything in general that you want to speak to?
Well, I still feel the same way about freedom, fighting for freedom, and not letting tyranny take over. I'm still, and I'll fight again today. I'm old and crippled, and you know I ain't got much energy or strength, but I would fight to the death for this country. I love this country.
That's a great way to end your interview.
Thanks.
You're welcome.